What does clicking on a picture of a bus have to do with a life-saving surgery? Yeah, I know, it sounds totally random, right? But stick with me because today we're going to pull back the curtain and find this amazing hidden connection between our everyday digital lives and one of the most critical procedures in all of medicine. Oh, you know this one, the classic prove you're not a robot test. We've all been there, right? You're just trying to log in somewhere and boom, you're playing a game of spot the crosswalk. It feels kind of silly, just this little speed bump online. But what if I told you there's way, way more going on behind that simple click? I mean, have you ever stopped to think about it? Like, really think? Why buses? Why fire hydrants? Why are millions of us all over the world pointing out the same things over and over again? Well, the real reason is so much cooler than just proving you're a person. Okay, so here's the secret. Every single time you click on one of those squares, you're not just checking a box. You're actually teaching an AI. Yep, you are an unpaid tutor for the artificial intelligence that's learning to see the world. The same AI that powers things like self-driving cars. That little click, it's a tiny piece of a giant global lesson. So think about that. If there's that much complexity hidden behind something as simple as a web login, just imagine the layers of complexity inside the most incredible system we know of, the human body. And that's exactly where we're going today. We're diving into a medical procedure that, just like that CAPTCHA, looks simple from the outside, but is absolutely packed with unseen expertise. All right, section 1, an ancient modern airway. We're talking about the what and why of the tracheostomy. This is the procedure we're going to unpack. And just like we said, it seems kind of straightforward, but underneath, it is a whole universe of precision, knowledge, and incredible skill. So what exactly is it? Put simply, a tracheostomy is a surgical procedure where an opening is created in the front of the neck, going directly into the trachea. That's your windpipe. The whole point is to create a new, stable airway for breathing when the normal path through the mouth and nose just isn't working. And get this is not some modern medical invention. Not at all. We're talking about a procedure that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. I mean, we found depictions of it from 3600 BC. Back then, it was this last-ditch, life-or-death move to stop someone from choking. But today, it's evolved into a highly controlled, planned procedure that's a cornerstone of modern critical care. So why do people get them now? Well, it pretty much all boils down to one thing: keeping that airway open and secure. Think about patients in the ICU who are going to be on a ventilator for a really long time, or people with such severe sleep apnea that nothing else works. You can even use it proactively, before a massive head and neck surgery where you know there's going to be a ton of swelling. It's a surprisingly versatile tool. Okay, now for the how. This is where it gets really, really interesting. The surgeon has to become a kind of biological map maker, navigating this incredibly complex landscape inside the neck. It's a high-stakes journey, where being off by even a tiny bit, well, it can have huge consequences. So before any incision is even made, the surgeon is exploring, but with their fingertips. They're feeling for these key landmarks on the neck. Things like the sternal notch at the base of the throat, the thyroid notch, you might know it as the Adam's apple, and the super important ring of cartilage called the cricoid. These aren't just bumps on the neck. They are the signposts on the map that tell the surgeon exactly where they need to go. And let me tell you, the stakes are unbelievably high. The target, the sweet spot, is a tiny window between the second and third tracheal rings. But here's the crazy part. A millimeter, just 1 millimeter to the side, and you're right next to the carotid artery. That's the main highway for blood to the brain. And you're also near the recurrent laryngeal nerve, the thing that controls your voice. It's less like surgery and more like diffusing a bomb. Precision is absolutely everything. There's this quote from a surgeon that just says it all. If you're seeing the carotid artery within your surgical wound, it means you have drifted off way too far lateral. I mean, wow. Translation, if you see that artery, you are way, way off course. And being off course here could mean catastrophic bleeding or losing your voice forever. It really just hammers home how much focus this takes. All right, time to talk about the cut itself. This is really a symphony of precision and teamwork. It's not a one-person show. It's more like an orchestra. You've got the surgeon conducting, the anesthesiologist controlling the tempo of the patient's breathing. Every single person and piece of equipment has to be in perfect sync. So the path to the airway is taken step by step. First, the incision. Then the surgeon gently separates the strap muscles in the neck. Think of it like parting curtains. Then they have to navigate around or divide the thyroid isthmus. And finally, after all that, they've reached their destination, the trachea itself. Only then can they make the opening and secure the tube. Okay, now for a few details that are just mind-blowing. Let's start with this number, less than 20%. What's that? It's the maximum percentage of oxygen that can be flowing through the patient's airway when the surgeon uses cautery. That's a tool that uses heat to control bleeding. Why so low? Because if the oxygen concentration is any higher, you can literally cause a fire, an airway fire, inside the patient. Unbelievable. Here's another one, less than 20 centimeters of water pressure. This is all about the tiny balloon, or cuff, on the end of the tracheostomy tube. It needs to be inflated inside the windpipe to create a seal. But if you inflate it too much over that 20 mark, you can actually cut off blood flow to the wall of the trachea, and that tissue can start to die. It's this incredibly delicate balance between getting a good seal and not causing permanent damage. And one more number for you, 2. That's how many physicians are often needed to do what's called a percutaneous tracheostomy. It's a less invasive way to do it. You have one doctor working on the outside, making the opening, and another on the inside, using a scope with a camera to guide the whole process in real time. It's the ultimate example of surgical teamwork. And this really drives home the point that this is anything but a solo act. There is a constant, open line of communication between the surgeon and the anesthesiology team. They're coordinating every single second, managing the oxygen, pulling back the old breathing tube at just the right moment. It is a perfectly timed dance. Okay, so the procedure is done, but the expertise, the intense level of care, that doesn't stop, not by a long shot. Life after the procedure involves a whole new set of risks and a whole new plan for recovery. Yeah, once the patient is out of the OR, the journey is really just beginning. Post-op care is a 24/7 job. For example, secretions can build up above that little balloon cuff inside the trachea, so they have to be cleared out regularly to keep the airway open and prevent really nasty infections. And of course, like any surgical procedure, there are risks, and they change over time. Right there in the operating room, you worry about things like bleeding or a pneumothorax. In the early days after, the big concerns are infection or the tube getting blocked or dislodged. And even way down the line, you can see long-term problems like a narrowing of the trachea called stenosis. But then there's the complication that surgeons have nightmares about. It's called a tracheoinnominate fistula. Now look at these numbers. It is incredibly rare. It happens in less than 1% of cases. But the mortality rate associated with it, it's around 80%. It's when the tube erodes through the trachea and into a massive artery right next to it. And the outcome is devastating. It is the ultimate terrifying reminder of why every single millimeter, every detail matters so, so much. And just like that, we've come full circle. We started with a simple click to identify a bus, and we ended with a life-saving surgical cut. From one to the other, the theme is the same. Our world is absolutely built on these incredible layers of unseen expertise. It's all around us. It kind of makes you look at the world a little differently, doesn't it? It makes me wonder, what other simple surfaces in your world and my world are hiding a whole universe of skill and complexity? What other hidden stories are out there just waiting for us to notice?